You mentioned about the calendar, the Hebrew calendar. You see, God works on a calendar. He does not work on the Gregorian calendar at all. Everybody was scared and they're spitless and making prophecies crazy about what's going to happen in the year 2000. I said, nothing, ain't anything going to happen on January 1, 2000, because that's not the calendar God goes by. God has a calendar. He set it up. And it's in the Bible. People call it the Jewish calendar. Thank God they kept it, or the Christians would have lost all sense of it. But it is, and I do have a chart there that I made for you to see the dates on the calendar. There are 7 feast dates, and I want to God's sacred calendar, and so it has 7 moeds. God's says that the signs in Genesis 1, he says that the stars and the sun and the moon, especially the moon, he says, is made for moeds.
Now, what is a moed?
A moed is an appointed time. Genesis 1:14. God set the stars and all in for moeds. It says in the King James seasons, but the word is moed. It means an appointed time, a fixed time. God has a calendar, and on the calendar, he circles certain dates. This is his calendar of redemption. And it's told to us, especially in Leviticus 23, and it starts out when they came out of Egypt with Passover. Now, God has 2 calendars, the civil calendar. They had kept that civil calendar for a long time. It starts off with Rosh Hashanah, and it is the date that celebrates the creation of Adam in the fall. But now, God's sacred calendar, when they come out of Egypt, he says, this will be a new calendar for you, a new beginning of years. This is in Exodus chapter 12. And so he tells them what their moeds are going to be. He sets up 7 moeds, 7 feasts, people say. And they are listed particularly in Leviticus 23. 4 of them are in the spring, Passover. Now, in Passover, at that date, you also begin the Feast of Unleavened Bread. At the end of the Passover week, you have first fruits. Then you count 50 days over to what we call Pentecost. All of these have fulfillments. And Jesus was the fulfillment of Passover. He was the Passover lamb. He did away with sin. Leaven is a type of sin. He did away with sin. First fruits, they went out at the end of that week and they weighed the first fruits. That is resurrection. Yeah, I could teach a week on all of these, but just going quickly, then you count 50 days and you come over to the Feast of Weeks. We say Pentecost, and that was fulfilled with the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. Then you have a period when there are no feasts over unto the fall. The spring feasts have all been fulfilled. The fall feasts have not been fulfilled. The first one is the Feast of Trumpets. It begins on Rosh Hashanah. 10 days later, you have the Day of Atonement. And then 5 days more, you're going to have Tabernacles. Tabernacles will be fulfilled when Jesus sets up his earthly kingdom and the Jubilee is all here. So those are to be fulfilled at his second coming. The first ones were fulfilled at his first coming. Now, all right, this is the calendar of the moeds, the feasts, the sacred calendar of redemption. There is another division that God gives in Leviticus of the years, and these are called the Shmita Cycles. He divides the years into 7 year periods. A week of years is 7 years. At the end of every 7 years, they're supposed to let the land rest in the Shemitah year. Then when you count 7 times 7, 49, and then you have the Jubilee. So I have also given you a chart there of the Rosh Hashanah and the 7-year cycles. Bless the Lord. Now, I want to tell you about a prophecy that came through my mouth. This was 10 days before Rosh Hashanah 2019. 10 days before Rosh Hashanah 2019. I was at Dr. Larry Ollison's church, Larry and Loretta Ollison's church in Osage Beach, Missouri. He has a yearly meeting, and he has Bob Yandian come. He has Lynn Mink. He has some others. And so we go up each year. We'll have a night to speak. And it was my night to speak on Thursday night. And the Lord told me that day as I was preparing, the crowd will be sparse tonight. And that's how I want it. And I remembered one of Brother Hagin's greatest prophecies came when people couldn't get to the meeting. And so I thought, uh-oh, something's going to come. So we went to church that night, and Dr. Ollison said, as soon as the praise and worship team finishes, they're going to leave because there's a big Christian concert in town, and everybody wants to go. And I thought, fine. That's what the Lord showed me. He said, don't preach long tonight, the Lord said. Preach that prayer is fellowship with God. 1 John. And it says, we touched him, we handled him, the word of life. And he gave us a revelation, and that revelation, we're going to give it to you. And it is, God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. And we're giving you this revelation, 1 John 1, so that you may have fellowship with God. That word is koinonia, I think is the way you say it. I'm not as good with Greek as I am Hebrew. So it means working as a partner and a partaker with God. Prayer is working as a partner and a partaker with God. Prayer is getting God's will into the earth, and we speak it in prayer. So I taught on that. He said, don't preach long. Preach on that, working with God in prayer, and then pray. So when I finished, Lynn Mink sang a song in the Spirit. And in his song in the Spirit, he started talking about fellowship and prayer and how God was going to even start translating us in prayer and taking us to other countries and nations and showing us his will. And then when Lynn Mink finished his song, I started prophesying. It's a short prophecy, really short. And I knew on the inside, God said to me, and I was listening on the inside, and the words were going to come out of my mouth, but I heard in the inner man, the spirit man, I'm going to say 2020 because that's how they see years. But I'm really talking about years the way I see them. So this is 10 days before the beginning of the civil year in 2019. Rosh is head, Shana is year, Rosh Hashanah is head of the year. And the civil year begins in the autumn on Rosh Hashanah. When this prophecy came, it was 9/19/19. It was September 19, 2019. So it was 10 days before God's civil calendar was going to begin. So here's the prophecy. 2020 will be a year of transition, and it will begin with the beginning of the year as I see it on Rosh Hashanah. That year will be a year that's transition onto 2021. In 2021, all things will have begun to end, begun to change, to move, to rearrange. Now, this year, I must have you. I must have my body, the church, in that fellowship I just sang about, unbroken fellowship. So prepare for it to begin, the transition year in 2020. I will provide all you need to fulfill my will. Work with me in fellowship, in prayer, for yourself, yes, but beyond yourself, and know that it will start the transition year on Rosh Hashanah 2020 And Rosh Hashanah 2021, there will be a big change. A big change. Rosh Hashanah 2021 is September 6th and 7th, 2021. So I'm looking for something big then. I don't know what, but there will be something big.